Getting to camp can be quite the challenge sometimes, especially with all the different terrains. We actually took OTIS to the beach once and it was a little bit sticky. The tires were at their full street pressure and we almost got stuck. That is when we knew we had to do something.
This makes me so nervous.
We recently got some new tires. They are the KO3s, if you're interested in that. They are a little bit bigger tires, so that whole process of getting them was a little bit stressful because we had to replace this whole bit. But since we were going to try to make this airing up and airing down process a little bit easier, we added a few things to it. And of course, keeping it within a reasonable budget was an absolute must. You have found Explore Trek Adventure with Kelly and Greg. We cover everything camping, from backpacking to adventure vans. These are the things we ended up adding. We have the Apex RCV valves, which is going to make it super easy and quick to air down. We have the VIAIR 400P air compressor that'll be used to pump up the tires. And then we have the RapidAir preset tire inflator, so we can just set the tire pressure we need and let it go.
Going with these Apex valves was actually way harder than it should have been. We originally ordered the bigger ones, and I think they're the RPV valves. And those things are really crazy because you can like dump like 30 pounds of air in like 10 seconds. Long story short is the valve that I got was not the correct valve. It wasn't long enough to fit actually in the actual little slot where it goes in the wheel. We returned all that stuff and we went with Apex's RCV valve. And these are drastically different because these literally just go on top of the existing valve stems. It comes with a metal cap, and how it works is it has a normal Schrader valve on the top, and this is where it screws onto your existing tire stem. This red part pulls up. There's a bunch of holes all the way around, and that's where the air comes blasting out, and then you push it back down to stop it. Give you a quick demo on how the valves work. You take off the cap and you pull out. You can see that there's no other tools you need. Everything's right there. When we installed these, we wanted to know how much faster they actually are. The default valves that come on this normal tire, when we did a 1-minute deflation test, went down 23 pounds. We then installed these and we did that same 1-minute test, and this went down 43 pounds. So it's almost double. When it comes time to install these, it's super simple. They just screw on. But if you buy the set, it comes with this little tool, and this little nub here is for pulling out the cores on your existing stems. Once this core has been pulled out, which is super easy, you can then screw on your new valve. The only caveat is if you're going to use blue Loctite, which we did, just a dab, you need to let all the air out of the tire before you stick this on. Otherwise, some of that Loctite can accidentally get blown up into this valve, which that would be bad. And this is kind of the one big con of going this route, is you can look at this thing and it sticks out quite a bit. So it adds, a good 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch to that valve stem. But if you look at the tire from the side, it actually is not protruding out. It's close, but it doesn't actually stick out. It's definitely not going to be as big a deal for us with this van because we're not going to be rock crawling. If we're anywhere near an area where there's big rocks trying to rip my valve stems off, the van should not be there. The last thing with this is this tool, which you can use to take out the core, also has this little divot here. And if you look at the stems, you can see that there's a flat part, and that slides right on here. And so then you can tighten down and get it all nice and snug. We went with the VIAIR 400P for several reasons. One being cost. I think the biggest issue is cost with some of the fancier air compressors. Yes, they're a little bit faster. Yes, they're probably better. But for the amount that we're going to do, I just couldn't justify it. And this is the portable version, which we weren't quite sure where we want to mount it, if we are going to mount it. I do have to say that this bag is super well made, and it comes with plenty of extra space. It did come with this air up tool that has a really nice gauge on it. It tends to be like 2 or 3 pounds a little bit low, but it also has a button right here if you need to release air. I do like having this gauge right here because when you're filling up, you can just quickly let go, see what pressure you're at, go ahead and adjust. That makes the process super easy. What I don't like is this thing is normally closed. And so if you're not pulling the trigger on this, no air is coming out. So that means if you're airing up a tire that, say, takes 5 minutes, you have to sit there for 5 minutes holding that down. And if you had to do that on 4 tires, that could be a long time of just sitting there holding that. The pump itself, it actually is pretty cool. It actually has a rubber base on it. The big issue with the Sprinter vans is the battery leads are, about eye level, 5.5 feet tall. And so making sure that we had enough lead to actually be able to reach was a big deal. And some of the pumps actually, the leads are not long enough. These totally work. This side of the bag has a pocket for stuff, and this side has also another pocket with a flap on the top. And this is where we keep the extra air filters that it came with. Now, if we look on the front, there's a whole separate compartment for the hose. And a lot of people don't like these coiled hoses. I can't say if I like it or dislike it yet, but it works well. It doesn't seem to kink on itself, what we've had. It doesn't look like it, but this hose is actually 30 feet, and it's plenty long enough to go if the compressor is at the front all the way to the rear tires. A couple other things about the compressor is it does have an inline fuse. And then over here, there's the on-off switch. This is where the air filters are. It's got like a pre-filter and then another filter. This is the automatic version. What that means is if you are not actively pumping anything, instead of the compressor continuously running, it'll sense that there's no more air coming out and then it'll stop itself. Last up, we have the RapidAir preset tire inflator. And all this does is you can set the tire pressure to what you want. Hold the red button down. And so say we want to go up to 40 pounds. And we hit start. The only thing I don't like about it so far is this lead is really pretty long. Doesn't need to be that long, at least for us. On the chuck that goes onto the tire valve, there's a little grabber on there, so when you stick it on the tire, it'll grab. One thing I do not like about these pumps is they all clip to your car battery, and they say to leave the car running while your compressor is running. This one pulls around 20 to 30 amps, which is a decent amount, especially for a car battery. But what it's not a lot for is for the ginormous house battery we have. What we need to figure out today is those valves came with a little sticker that you put on your door jamb. And we need to figure out which pressures and how long it takes to get to those pressures. But in order to do that, we are going to simulate connecting it to the house battery. This is the battery box that we built to power our fridge and our rooftop tent, and it's just a 100 amp hour lithium battery. Today we're going to use this to simulate connecting it to the van's house batteries. Right now I don't have a good way of connecting it. This battery has a nice Bluetooth monitoring system, and we can log into the phone and we'll be able to see exactly how many amp hours that the pump takes to inflate these tires back up. We'll demo this really fast, but one thing I wanted to let you know is I had no idea products like this even existed. When we went to the Overland Expo, the Moreflate booth had a new, I think they call it the Auto Magic Tire something. But basically it's a little box like this. It's a little smaller than this, and you can set the pressures you want, and it basically does exactly this. The thing is this is I think over $100 cheaper. So it theoretically serves the same function. Let me show you how it works. Plug in your hose. We're have to turn the compressor on. So there's the compressor. You heard it start up, but it turned itself off. So that's the auto feature of that 400P. This thing, super easy. Hold the red button down until it turns on. This is what pressure you want to set it to. And we're gonna clip this onto the tire. Hold it in, push it on. Let go. So now it's telling us what pressure the tire is currently. If we wanted to deflate it, say we wanted it to be, I don't know, let's just say we wanted it to be 44 pounds. Hit start. And all automatic tire systems like this will go for a while. They'll stop so they can get a good reading on the pressure. There we go. So we're down to 44. And if we want to check that compared to like this valve, I would say it's like within 1 or 2 PSI. It's good enough for me. So now, if you're going in an air up scenario, it's exactly the same thing. So say we're at 45, we wanted to get to 50. I'm going to run these. There we go. And there's the compressor kicks off. So that actually makes the whole process easier. You can clip it on, set your pressures, go do whatever you're going to do while you're waiting for it to air up. This RapidAir basically just replaces this guy here. It just makes the process way easier, which is what we were going for. The downfall of this version versus like the Morflate is it's a different shape. It's a little bit bigger. This one does take 7 AA batteries, which is a lot. And I think the Morflate version has a lithium battery, which is rechargeable. I do like that.
There's 2 measurements we need to get to. For dirt and rock, we're gonna need to be at 30 in the front, 40 in the back. And then the other one is sand. We wanna be 20 in the front, 30 in the back.
Going from 50 to 30 on the front tires. We're gonna go 10-second increments to see if we can get some good measurements here. Ready, set. Okay, let's see what that gets us to. That gets us to 40, let's say 42. 10 more seconds. There we go. 35, 36. I say we go 5-second increments now. It puts us at like 32, 33. We'll go another 5. There we go. Right about 30. Okay, so that was 30 seconds. So now the key is we will pump this back up. Put this on. Let's actually see what this reads. Oh yeah, so that was really close. We're also gonna time how long it takes to get back up to 50. Okay, so we're 30. We're gonna go to 50. Mark, get set. It's getting close, so it should stop more frequently. There, right at the 2-minute mark. A word of warning for these pumps, they get extremely, extremely hot. Like you can't even just barely touch it, you'll fry your hand. So I think this is where having it hard mounted inside the hood is a good option. And that way we don't have to worry about it when we're done. Because I'm not entirely sure what we're gonna do with this thing while it cools down. Now that we know it takes 30 seconds, let's actually test it out to see how close it actually really is. So, ready? Here we go. Okay, let's see the magic number. Ooh, look at that. Perfect. That worked way better than I thought it was gonna work. One thing that they do say in their instructions are like, oh, you can just undo this one, walk to the next tire, do that till you make it all the way back to the front, then close them, go the way around. But in our testing, at least with these tires, it goes down way too fast to do that. So I think for us, we'll just have to either do it one at a time or simultaneously, you know, all start at the same time. Now we need the back tire pressures. And on Sprinter vans, you run different tire pressures front and back because there's a lot more weight back here. So these, we run 70 in the back on the highway, which is a lot. For on dirt and rock, we're gonna go 40 in the back. And then for sand, we're gonna go 30.
Now that we've done all of our testing, we can add our air down times to our little sticker that came with the Apex valves. That way we'll always know how much to let the air out for. Dirt and rock, we got 50 for the front. And then the back, 70, get down to 30, and it takes 57 seconds. Inside of the driver's door, we'll wipe it down. There we go. We ended up filling up the tires 5 times, 2 in the front, 3 in the back. In the back were the high pressure 70% or 70 PSI. So that was actually using this battery, only 7% of it was used to do that. But the van has the equivalent of basically 3 of these batteries. So we basically would not be using hardly anything if we were using the batteries on the van. Overall thoughts, this is a pretty easy process. Airing down, of course, was super fast. And I think if Greg and I were both doing a tire, we could probably get this down within 3 minutes, easy. Getting up, that's gonna be a little bit longer, of course, because you have to do 1 tire at a time. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but currently I think this is a really good setup. I actually even think that maybe I could do this by myself, especially with the air pressure gauge thingy-mabobber. I think we're definitely gonna need to have it mounted under the hood so that way we don't have to deal with how hot the air compressor gets, and of course eventually get it hardwired into the van itself. So if anybody knows how to do that or has suggestions for us, please let us know.
It's only been about 10 minutes. This thing is actually cooler. It's still hot, but it's cooler to the touch. Before you couldn't even tap it. But I think we found a spot. Maybe we can set it there during travel until it cools down. If it flops this way, it's just gonna hit metal and it shouldn't be able to flop this way.
And of course, we'll have links for everything we talked about today in the description below, along with the YouTube video of Greg making that battery box. You can go watch this video next. You can find us at exploretrekadventure.com, and we'll see you next time.
I don't want you crawling into the van.